From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
No-till or till?
So we can see that really all of that rainfall made it into and is being stored in our soil.
A quick visual demonstration may help you decide without having to set a foot in the field. We're seeing more improvements in the latest drought monitor, but are there more rains for the Midwest on the way?
And I think we're going to see possibly some significant yield loss.
As Russia continues to pound Ukrainian grain ports, market watchers fear what that will mean for supplies around the world and for world hunger.
All eyes are on that and what it means to international food security.
An update right now on AgDay.
AgDay, presented by Pioneer. What's next happens when blood, sweat, and tears meet rain, wind, and sun. Pioneer. What's next happens here.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Russia continuing to keep the key port city of Odessa in its crosshairs after ending the Black Sea grain deal. Moscow appearing to target Ukrainian critical grain export infrastructure since it vowed retribution this week, following an attack that damaged a crucial bridge between Russia and the Moscow-annexed Crimean Peninsula. The renewed strikes on Ukraine are being blamed for driving up food prices in countries facing hunger. AgDay's Michelle Rook joins us. And Michelle, what does this mean for global exports, especially of wheat?
Clinton, there's a great deal of uncertainty about global grain supplies with the escalation of the Black Sea war. That's been helping to kind of fuel this rally in U.S. grain prices, including corn and wheat. Now, since July 17th, when Russia said they were backing out of the Black Sea Grain Initiative, they have been launching air attacks against southern Ukrainian port cities every night. Significant damage was reported at the port of Odessa, which Ukraine officials say will take months to repair. Meanwhile, Moscow also issued a new threat against Ukraine-bound vessels, which prompted marine insurers to suspend coverage for Black Sea shippers.
Russia now is going to consider any boat in the Black Sea region a military vessel and subject to, retaliation.
Russia exited the deal, saying it wasn't properly implemented and shipments weren't going to poor countries. UN and USDA data shows China's been the largest benefactor of Ukraine grains and oilseeds since the deal was signed a year ago, receiving nearly a quarter of the 32 million metric tons shipped. Of China's total, 34% was corn, 78% sunflower meal. Still, loss of the corridor could drive up global starvation and food prices after cooling the last several months.
Food price inflation is a very real concern. This issue with Russia and Ukraine will only exacerbate food price inflation if we don't reach some sort of agreement. So again, all eyes are on that and what it means to international food security.
Meanwhile, Ukraine has vowed to find other export routes through territorial waters of Romania and Bulgaria and by land shipment.
They've set up so that they can do some rail, a little bit of truck. But the trouble is coming is that a lot of the countries that they have to go through to get the product to where it needs to be is pushing back and saying, we don't want to bring extra grain into our country to raise our stocks.
It's unknown if the war will escalate to the point Ukraine and Russian supplies will be cut or if there will be increased Western sanctions. So the full effect on global grain exports is still a wild card. I'm Michelle Rook reporting for AgDay.
All right, thanks, Michelle. Now, there are more improvements in the drought monitor this week. Take a look at the latest map. Just over 25% of the country is in drought. That's down about 1% from a week ago. But you can see the extreme drought is still focused on the central part of the country. Now, 55% of the nation's corn crop is in drought. That's down 9% from last week. And about half of the soybeans are in drought, down 7%. Eric Snodgrass says the Climate Prediction Center's forecast indicates a ridge of high heat moving into the Midwest next week and will move back west in August. Now, he believes that will keep the Midwest much cooler next month, but it's not clear if that will bring rain.
I feel like we've been punched in the mouth twice. And if there's a third punch, maybe it's, longer duration heat into early August, then I think we're going to see some, possibly some significant yield loss. But if storms cascade over the top of it, ridge goes back to, let's send it all the way back there to Arizona, then we will be talking about busting bins with yield.
Meanwhile, a tornado in North Carolina caused extensive damage to homes and buildings, including a Pfizer plant. At least 4 people were hurt. One driver capturing the twister as it ripped through Nash County, 45 miles northeast of Raleigh. It's estimated to have been at least an EF3 with wind speeds up to 150 miles per hour. And several things are combining to increase the potential for more severe weather. Meteorologist Matt Engelbrecht has a look. Matt.
And we continue to see the potential for a few strong isolated thunderstorms to come on through as we go through our Friday and also into our Saturday. Now, what this is following is a cold front, or being summer, might even call it a cool front. But where that boundary is located, in this case on Saturday, it's going to be across the southeast. That's going to be the trigger mechanism for the possibility of a few tornadoes, damaging winds, heavy rain, and also large hail. Again, that's mainly going to be focused Saturday. As we get into Sunday, things start to shift for the little bit quieter. But as we've been talking about all this week, we're going away from the severe weather and rain potential on over to the heat. Go ahead and take a look at your screen here. Beautiful shot. What a view. As we continue to go deeper into July and, of course, into August. You got a nice shot here coming in from Nebraska. Looking at the wheat harvest continuing to roll on. Mike sent this one in. Saying better late than never. Nebraska has a lot of ground to make up when it comes to winter wheat harvest. At last report, just 21% harvested. The 5-year average is 52%. I'll have more on your forecast in just a bit.
USDA announcing it's joining with attorneys general in 31 states to crack down on price gouging across ag supply chains. Now, as part of a series of new measures announced by the Biden administration this week that it hopes will lower costs for Americans and support small businesses. Ag Secretary Tom Vilsack announcing USDA's participation at the White House Competition Council meeting. Under the plan, the agency will partner with states to weed out anti-competitive market practices in food, retail, meat, and poultry processing.
We're pooling both our investigative resources and our legal authorities. That's going to enable us to better crack down on anti-competitive and anti-consumer practices that raise prices at the grocery store and deprive farmers of a fair return.
It's also hoped the partnership will give consumers and producers more choice. From the escalating conflict between Russia and Ukraine to uncertainty around China, ag economists say geopolitical events around the globe could shape the agricultural landscape over the next 6 months. The second Ag Economist Monthly Monitor shows those surveyed are slightly less positive about the short-term ag economy, but much of that due to weather and general markets. As you can see, some of that waning outlook is for livestock, but longer term, ag economists are turning more optimistic.
Yet, when you look ahead of what they expect 12 months from now, they became much more optimistic about where we're headed in front of us. So a little bit of drag here in the short run is kind of what we get out of the monitor this time, but maybe some more positives down the road.
Brown helps author the monthly survey, which is a joint effort between the University of Missouri and Farm Journal. Now, Brown says economists are slightly more optimistic about corn and soybean prices this year, but they also think USDA is too high on its current corn and soybean yield forecasts. From Ukraine to weather, a look at what's driving those markets this week. Michelle Rook joins us with Markets Now next. And later, lost at sea can be a lonely place unless you have your best friend by your side. Meet Bella in the country. A new monthly reading of the Rural Main Street Index is showing more improvement. This month's survey of rural bankers conducted by Creighton University coming at a reading of 55.6. Now that's down slightly from June, but still above growth neutral for the 4th straight month. Surveyors say farmland prices expanded for the 34th straight month, and the bankers report that on average non-farm investors secured about 17% of farmland sales in their area over the past 6 months. That's almost double what was reported back in April of last year. Wheat continues to push further upward on escalating tensions in Ukraine. Michelle Rook is back with more in Markets Now.
Grains ended mixed on Thursday. Darren Newsom, senior market analyst with Bar Chart, is joining us. And we tried to hold on to some gains on Thursday. And of course, the funds have been really chasing these Black Sea headlines to push that market up recently, haven't they?
Yeah, it really has. And, unfortunately, what it's shown us is, we have not evolved away from the headline-driven algorithms. We thought there for a number of years, at least I thought maybe over the last, 5-10 years, that we had moved away from this. But this week has proven that simply isn't the case. That still depends on how the headline is fed in, bullish, bearish, whatever. Certainly seems to change the flow of trade. And we saw it off and on all throughout the Thursday's session. So I think the key to me was on Wednesday with the September Chicago contract gaining 2 cents on December, turning around and losing a penny and a half of that back on Thursday's close, certainly puts the spread right back into bearish territory. So we know the global supply and demand situation, at least short term, has not changed.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how is this going to impact global wheat flow and exports?
Right now, everything we're seeing is telling us that it hasn't changed. Could it down the road? Absolutely. Because, if anyone thought this was just going to be a short-term situation, that we were going, by the time we got to the end of 2023, it was going to work itself out. Ukraine was going to be back in the game and all this. That was very naive. That just simply wasn't going to happen. But I think when the rockets start falling on the ports again and all of this starts to happen, it gets the market's attentions once again. And then, all the headlines and the chatter come out about how Russia was going to, be dealing with ships that make their way into the Black Sea. Doesn't matter if they're going to Ukrainian ports or Russian ports, they're going to be dealt with. So, I think long term, there is still a chance it changes supply and demand. Short term, it just doesn't look like it's going to.
And corn and soybeans setting back on Thursday. And Darren, was that profit taking or hedge pressure?
I think probably a little bit of both. In the corn, it was probably more hedge pressure because this has been a gift. It's rallied 80 some cents or more in the December contract. A lot of folks didn't think they were going to have this opportunity here in late July, early August to get more sales on the books. So it certainly looks like it was more hedge pressure in corn, maybe a little bit of profit taking in beans.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Darren Newsome, Senior Market Analyst with Bar Chart. That's Markets Now, and we'll have more AgDay coming up.
To get in touch with Darren, send him an email at analysis@darrennewsome.com or give him a call at 402-669-0210. Registration is open for the 2023 Pro Farmer Crop Tour, August 21st through the 24th. Attend one of our nightly meetings or join online as we gain insight on the 2023 growing season. Visit profarmercroptour.com/register to select the stop nearest you.
Our latest drought monitor, as we talked about last week, looks good. Not great. Still got Missouri, but also into Wisconsin and also into parts of Nebraska and back out here to the west, where we're still continuing to see that extreme, if not exceptional, drought. Not a lot of relief in sight. Again, this drought monitor went live Thursday morning, and going through the weekend, we'll have a few chances at some rain. But the big story is going to be this: the jet stream and the heat that is going to set up across the entire United States, including Alaska, next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So through your Sunday and Monday, when we see these dips down the U's down here to the south, that is energy that is going to help support developed showers and thunderstorms. It's also going to be an indicator of some cooler air at the surface. Watch what happens Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. This little U easily and quickly turns into more of a straight line by Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week. Our pattern goes zonal. And one thing about going zonal with this jet stream up here to the north is that temperatures become stagnant, and if they are hot, they are going to stay hot. So this is on Thursday. Now, even into Friday and Saturday, that pattern will persist. For the rest of your afternoon, you got temperatures still sitting in the mid 80s, and then the triple digits back into Texas, but also one thing you've heard a lot about, Phoenix, Arizona, high of around 113 degrees. As for your morning temperatures for tomorrow, more of the mid 70s where that heat and humidity is locked up. A little bit drier atmosphere back into the Midwest and the Northeast with that cool front pushing through. So overnight lows, more of the 60s, the upper 60s, lower 70s into the Midwest. Now that return flow will bring some humidity across the area into next week. As for tomorrow afternoon, check out that triple digit heat just starting to push back up here towards the north. Possible high temperatures reaching into the triple digits, potentially even in the 90s portions of the Midwest. As for the flooding potential, so not a lot of rain in the forecast. We're staying in that 5 to 15% range, even into Monday and Tuesday. And we'll start to see that potential for some rain, mainly along the East Coast. Very quiet in and across the United States, with the next rain chance possibly coming in to the Four Corners states. But this next system that is setting up with the jet stream, a lot of heat, not a lot of rainfall. Let's go talk about Marshall, Missouri. AM clouds leading to some sun later on in the late afternoon, early evening, high around 81 degrees. Montana, mostly sunny, high around 87, low of 51. What about Moorhead, Kentucky? Partly cloudy, high of 74.
We talk a lot about the ongoing debate over whether to till or no-till that soil. Well, Kansas State agronomist Peter Tomlinson recently put both to the test without having to use an entire field to do it.
What I've got set up here, I've got grass out of one of our waterways here on the agronomy farm. Next to it is no-till soil from the inner row soybeans. And so we've still got some sorghum stalks. There's a cover crop, small grain cover crop out there, and so we've got that residue on the surface, decent soil structure. And then I've got soil from the crop garden, has been rototilled every year, doesn't have a lot of structure. And then the final pan on the end is soil that we used in research study. It has been ground and passed through a 1 millimeter sieve, and there is no structure to that. Okay, and so while that gets started, what we'll be collecting in the front jars is our runoff. So that's the water that's running off the soil surface. And then our jars in back will collect any water that is infiltrating into these pans, and hopefully we'll see some differences here. Let it go until we get about 1.5 inches of rain. We can see we've still got water infiltrating through on both of our grass, our no-till soybean field. Neither of these had, well, the grass had just a little bit of runoff, similar to the soybean field. We've got a little bit of sediment that came off with that, but not much at all. And so we can see that really all of that rainfall made it into and is being stored in our soil. Now, when we look over here at our two pans that came out of examples of tillage, this one that's at the same field moisture as those two, really within about 2 minutes, we had runoff starting. We have not had any infiltration in that pan. And then our dry soil, it took longer for that runoff to start, and we didn't see as much runoff as we were wetting that soil up, but we still had no infiltration. So these pans are about 1.5 inches deep. If we don't have any growing residue or plant material, that soil surface is absorbing that energy. If we look here at the no-till, you know, the aggregates are holding together. We can break them. They're hard to break apart, but they're holding together. They're not falling apart, so that soil's staying together. The cover crop residue, the plant residue is helping to absorb some of that energy of the raindrop, and similar to what we see here in the pasture system.
And our thanks to Kansas State for sharing that story with us. Up next, surviving a world of water. Hear how a man and his dog survived weeks at sea. It's a story every farm dog lover can relate to. Next in the country. Farmers could tell a million tales about adventures with their dog out in the field, but this adventure is pretty wild. An Australian sailor and his dog were rescued at sea this week after a harrowing 3 months adrift. Now take a look. That's 54-year-old Tim Shattuck and his dog Bella. The two set off in his catamaran from La Paz, Mexico 3 months ago with a plan to head to French Polynesia. But a storm hit a month into the trip, and Tim says it wiped out all of his electronics on board. And that's when the fight for survival began. The two living day by day by eating raw fish and drinking rainwater. They were finally spotted by a Mexican fishing ship, and they were brought on board a little hungry and a little thirsty, but otherwise okay. Now, Shattuck says he couldn't have imagined enduring what he did without his faithful dog. He called Bella amazing, and he said he was grateful to those who saved his life. And Shattuck is vowing to sail again at some point. Unbelievable. And that's all the time we have this morning. Sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.